6-year-old Dylan vanished from his backyard without a trace, leaving his parents devastated. For 8 years, Mark and Lisa lived with unbearable grief until they decided to rebuild by adopting another child. Their reclusive neighbor, Mr. Winters, rarely opened his door, but Mark's persistence eventually led him to the old dog kennel in the backyard. What he discovered beneath the rusty metal door made his blood run cold. The evening Dylan disappeared started like any other summer day. 6-year-old Dylan had been playing in the backyard of his family home, his laughter carrying through the neighborhood as the sun began to set. His mother, Lisa, had called him in for dinner, but when she stepped outside moments later, the yard stood empty. No response came when she called his name. At first, Lisa thought Dylan might be hiding, playing one of his favorite games. She searched behind the trees and in his little playhouse. But as minutes turned into an hour, panic began to set in. She called her husband, Mark, who raced home from work, his heart pounding with each passing minute. The couple called everyone they knew. They contacted neighbors, friends, relatives, anyone who might have seen their little boy. Police arrived and organized search parties that combed through nearby woods and parks. Hospitals were checked. Missing child alerts went out. For Mark and Lisa, life became divided into two parts, before and after Dylan's disappearance. Their home, once filled with the sounds of their son's laughter and running feet, fell silent. Dylan's room remained untouched, a shrine to their missing child. The investigation eventually went cold. No ransom demands ever came. No evidence pointed to what had happened to their only child. 8 years passed this way. 8 years of grieving. 8 birthdays and Christmases without their son. Eventually, after much soul-searching and therapy, Mark and Lisa made the difficult decision to rebuild their lives. They adopted a 1-year-old boy named Ethan. This wasn't about replacing Dylan. No one could ever take his place in their hearts. Rather, it was about creating a new chapter, about healing through the act of loving another child who needed parents. To celebrate this new beginning, they planned a welcoming party and invited everyone in the neighborhood. As Mark went door to door with invitations, he stopped at the home of Mr. Winters, a reclusive 60-year-old widower. Mr. Winters had lived in the neighborhood longer than anyone else, but tragedy had struck him hard. He had lost both his wife and son in a car accident, and grief had transformed him. He rarely left his property anymore, and few people had seen him in years. Mark knocked on the peeling door, expecting no answer as usual. To his surprise, a voice responded from inside, though the door remained firmly closed. Mark explained about the party and their adoption, hoping that perhaps this celebration might draw the old man out of his shell. Mr. Winters promised he would try to attend, his voice rough from disuse. The welcoming party for little Ethan came and went, without Mr. Winters making an appearance. As neighbors mingled in the backyard, conversation inevitably turned to the old man's tragedy. The story touched Mark and Lisa deeply. They understood the pain of loss better than most. Over the next few weeks, they began checking on Mr. Winters regularly. One unusually warm spring morning, Mark spotted Mr. Winters watering his neglected garden. Seizing the opportunity, he walked over and struck up a conversation. As they talked, Mark helped pull weeds from the overgrown garden beds. Moving around the yard, he noticed an old dog kennel in the far corner, rusted and partially hidden by overgrown bushes. When Mark asked about it, Mr. Winters' demeanor changed. His face darkened as he replied that he had lost his dog too, just like everything good in his life. Those words pierced Mark's heart. The next morning, Lisa decided to bring Mr. Winters some breakfast, hoping to build on the progress Mark had made. When repeated knocking at the front door went unanswered, she walked around to the backyard, calling out to announce her presence. What she saw there stopped her in her tracks. Mr. Winters was climbing out from the old dog kennel, brushing dirt from his clothes. Lisa found this odd. The kennel appeared far too small for a grown man to fit inside. Even stranger, she glimpsed what looked like a ladder within the structure before Mr. Winters slammed its door shut. When he noticed Lisa standing there, his reaction was unexpected and frightening. His face contorted with anger as he demanded to know why they wouldn't leave him alone. Disturbed by the sudden change, Lisa apologized and quickly left, deciding that perhaps they should stop their attempts to befriend the troubled man. Several days passed without any contact between the households. Then during his morning jog, Mark heard barking coming from Mr. Winter's property. He found this strange. Hadn't the old man said his dog was long gone? Later that afternoon, passing by again, Mark heard the barking continue. Concerned, he knocked on Mr. Winter's door. When no one answered, he walked around back. There, he found Mr. Winters collapsed near the kennel, unconscious. Mark immediately called for an ambulance. When paramedics arrived and revived the old man, Mr. Winters became agitated, refusing hospitalization despite their warnings about his condition. That evening, Mark returned to check on him. Finding the house seemingly empty, he called Lisa to suggest they alert the police. As he waited in the backyard, strange noises drew his attention to the dog kennel. Curious and concerned, he approached the structure and peered inside. What he saw made no sense at first. A trap door in the floor of the kennel, partially open. Mark called out, asking if anyone was down there. To his shock, Mr. Winters emerged from below, his face twisted with rage. But what froze Mark's blood was the gun in the old man's trembling hands. Mr. Winters demanded to know what Mark had seen. In the distance, police sirens wailed. Lisa had called them after all. Panic flashed across the old man's face. In a split second of terrible decision, he fired the weapon. Luckily, the bullet grazed Mark's arm. As officers arrived and subdued the increasingly erratic Mr. Winters, the old man began shouting warnings to someone unseen, ranting about enemies and battles beginning. Lisa arrived just as a figure emerged from the kennel's hidden entrance. A teenage boy pointing another gun, his eyes cold. Mark and Lisa stood frozen in disbelief. Though 8 years had passed, they recognized the features beneath the dirt in fear. They knew this boy. Mark whispered a name he hadn't spoken aloud in years. Dylan. The boy didn't respond. Instead, he declared them enemies, reciting words that sounded rehearsed and empty. From the ground where officers held him, Mr. Winters urged the boy to shoot, insisting that these people were threats, that they had come to destroy their world. Officers carefully approached and disarmed the confused teenager, who surrendered without resistance once Mr. Winters was removed from the scene. What they discovered beneath the kennel horrified everyone present. An underground bunker extended beneath Mr. Winters' property. One room held weapons and a makeshift shooting range. Another contained propaganda and journals filled with paranoid writings. The truth emerged slowly through investigation and interviews. Mr. Winters, consumed by grief over his own losses, had kidnapped Dylan to make others feel the pain he felt. Dylan had been brainwashed to believe that Mr. Winters was his protector and that other people were dangerous threats. As Mr. Winters faced justice for his crimes, Dylan began the long journey of healing. Therapists worked carefully to help him understand the truth, to reconnect him with his real family, to introduce him to the little brother he never knew existed, and the world he was told was his enemy. For Mark and Lisa, the joy of finding their son alive was tempered by the heartbreaking reality of what he had endured. Their son had been a prisoner beneath their neighbor's yard while they grieved his loss. What would you do if someone you loved returned after years of being presumed lost? How would you begin to rebuild that relationship?